Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from 3rd canto, 33rd chapter, verses 9, 10, and 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm reading verse number 9 from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter number 33, and verse number 9. And these three verses form the last statement of Kapila Dev in this chapter. So, again, very powerful and uh, I would say very critical instructions in the purports Srila Prabhupada is presenting. So, we'll get started with the prayers, with the verses. Maitreya Uvacha Idito Bhagavan Evam Kapilakyah Parapuman Vacha Vikalavayate Aha Matram Matra Vatsalaha. Maitreya Vacha, Maitreya said, Iditaha praised Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Evam, thus, Kapila Akyaha, named Kapila, Paraha, Supreme, Puman, person, Vacha, with words, Avilak, Avik, Aviklavya, Avilak, Aviklavya, Aviklavya, grave, iti, thus, Aha, replied, Matram, to his mother. Matra Vatsalaha, very affectionate to his mother. Translation. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila, satisfied by the words of his mother, towards whom he was very affectionate, replied with gravity. Purport. Since the Lord is all perfect, his exhibition of affection for his mother was also complete. After hearing the words of his mother, he most respectfully, with due gravity and good manners, replied. And now we are reading verse number 10. Kapila Uvacha Margene Margenanena Mataste Suseineo Suseyeno Ditena me Astitena Param Kastam Achirad Avirotsasi. Kapila Uvacha, Lord Kapila said, Margena, by the path. Anena, this. Mataha, my dear mother. Te, for you. Su, Savyena, very easy to execute. Uditena, instructed. Me, by me. Astitena, being performed. Param, supreme. Kastam is goal. Achirat, very soon. Avarotyasi, you will attain. Translation. The personality of Godhead said, My dear mother, the path of self realization, which I have already instructed to you, is very easy. You can execute the system without difficulty. And by following it, you shall very soon be liberated, even within your present body. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Devotional service is so perfect that simply by following the rules and regulations and executing them under the direction of the spiritual master, one is liberated, as it is said herein, from the clutches of Maya, even in this body. In other yogic processes or in empiric philosophical speculation, one is never certain whether or not he is at the perfectional stage. But in the discharge of devotional service, If one has unflinching faith in the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master and follows the rules and regulations, he is sure to be liberated, even within this present body. Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has also confirmed this. Iha yasya harer dasye, regardless of where he is situated, anyone whose only aim is to serve the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master is called Jivan Mukta, or one who is liberated even within this material body. Sometimes doubts arise in the minds of the neophytes about whether or not the spiritual master is liberated, and sometimes neophytes are doubtful about the bodily affairs of the spiritual master. The point of liberation, however, is not to see the bodily symptoms of the spiritual master. One has to see the symptoms of the spiritual master. Jivan Mukta means that even though one is in the material body, in brackets, there are still some material necessities since the body is material. Because one is fully situated in the service of the Lord, he should be understood to be liberated. Liberation entails being situated in one's own position. That is the definition in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktir Swarupena Vyavastitahi. The Swarupa or actual identity of the living entity is described by Lord Chaitanya. Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. The real identity of the living entity is that he is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord. If someone is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, he is to be understood as liberated. One must understand whether or not he is liberated by his activities in devotional service, not by other symptoms. Very powerful purport. And I'll also read the last verse for the third verse for today, and then we'll go into discussions. श्रद्धात्स्वैतं मतं मह्यं जष्टं यद् ब्रह्मवादिभिः येन माम् अभयं याय मृत्युं रच्छन्ति यतद्विदः Shraddha Shraddhatsva, you may be rest assured. Etat, about this. Matham, instruction. Mayam, my. Jushtam, followed. Yat, which. Brahma Vadibihi, by transcendentalists. Yena, by which. Mam, unto me. Abhayam, without fear. Yayaha, you shall reach. Mrityum, death. Richanti, attain. Atat vidaha, persons who are not conversant with this. Translation. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. Purport. Material existence is full of anxiety and therefore it is fearful. One who gets out of this material existence automatically becomes free from all anxieties and fear. One who follows a path of devotional service enunciated by Lord Kapila is very easily liberated. So, those are the three verses. ॐ ज्ञानतिम्रान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, like I said at the start of this reading today, that this is the final words of Lord Kapila Dev with this chapter, and here he is essentially instructing through his mother uh, the path of liberation, or the path of being reinstated in our swarupa, or in our constitutional position. In It is to be understood here that it is not that Mother Dehuti is not a perfected soul. Mother Dehuti again is asking questions just like Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami. Right, she's already in a liberated platform, and she is putting herself in this non-liberated platform and asking these questions for our own benefit, for our benefit. And we see this across in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's so fantastically qualified devotees who are genuinely asking and genuinely taking that humble position, but it is to be understood that they take that position for our own benefit, as in a mood of service. So, the purport of Srila Prabhupada, I wanted to focus specifically on verse number 10. It's a very powerful verse here, which talks about, who exactly is liberated and what does liberated state actually mean. Um, and here, Srila Prabhupada very clearly says that uh, even in this body, even in this body, we can be liberated and continue to do our activities as we continue to do our activities in the material world, and yet be fully liberated. And the sure short way to be able to do that is by executing devotional services and following the regulative principles under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. So that is the punchline of this particular verse of how do you actually get into that liberated stage. Uh, Again, as we look at our lives are quite complicated. We have our duties to our family, we have our duties to children, our spouses, and at work, and then within the community. Um, every time it snows here in Naperville or Illinois, sometimes I see that, most of the time we have a very friendly neighbor here who, has this snow plowing machine, and, he's kind enough to plow our sidewalks too. And of course, I'm now very much obligated to also reciprocate. So we, we, whether we like it or not, we have obligations because we exist in this material world and we receive a lot from many people, and so we are highly obligated. And in that sense, we tend to get also very much entangled in the dealings within this material world. And it is also a place of intense stress, dukhalyama shashvatam. And so this, it almost seems like this Ferris wheel that we are on, the treadmill that we are on, will never stop. And this notion of liberation where everything automatically just stops, um, is of course seems very attractive. But here again in this particular verse, we get a Srila Prabhupada is actually very clearly explaining, what is that Jivan Mukta, what does that liberated stage actually look like, and how to easily get to that particular position. And actually, even if we read, even from Bhagavad Gita, you'll see that, um, you know, Krishna in a way kind of checkmates Arjuna too. you know, where Krishna is asking Arjuna to do his duty, get up and fight. And Arjuna is talking about, what if I, what if I become liberated? Then I don't have any duties that I'm bound to, right? And Krishna says, no, you still have to fight, even if you're liberated. So that is really what um, our teachings, the teachings of our acharyas are also aligned towards is this the state of jivan mukta or liberation. Uh, it doesn't really matter from a devotional perspective, from a bhakti perspective, irrespective of the situation that we are in. And here, Srila Prabhupada quotes Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. And that whole, it's actually a very beautiful verse. Um, Iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilasva api avastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Anyone who, by his actions, mind, and words, lives only for the transcendental loving service of the Lord is certainly a liberated soul, even though he may appear to be in a condition of material existence. So there are two things um, from our perspective that I can think about. One is a it's highly motivating that this notion of liberated stage is not something that is super vague. It is actually achievable. So in that sense, this whole purport and this verse is gives us a lot of confidence. Uh, it also describes what is how to recognize that I am liberated, or how to recognize that another person is liberated. Typically in spiritual life, a lot of these indications about these are the qualities of XYZ, this is a qualification for getting to the stage. Again, we use these not necessarily to measure others, although that is our innate tendency is to evaluate others or judge others. But these are all measures that are given to understand if and how we are progressing in our spiritual path. So, how does one understand that one is on the liberated platform? Well, our entire day, our entire activities, everything is aligned or is in the mood of devotional service to Guru and Krishna. So that is the um, very simple definition of Jivan Mukta as it is given by Srila Rupa Goswami and it is emphasized by uh, Srila Prabhupada. And then uh, again, if we see here again, it is indicated that the spiritual master himself is engaged 100% in the service of the Supreme Lord. Now, there is also a tendency for us to look at the spots of the moon. Um, not just admire the beauty of the moon, but also sometimes we get more attract or our focus gravitates more towards the black spots on the moon. And so we may come across a liberated person who may have some material um, conditions or bodily symptoms that Srila Prabhupada is talking about. And somehow our notion of liberation might be that there must be a halo, person must levitate, and the person must glow. I mean, we may have certain um, utopian views or maybe misguided views of what does a liberated person look like, how does he act, and what does he do. And in this, through these verses, it helps us understand to also appropriately respect, mature devotees, is people who have dedicated their lives, their every living breath in service to Srila Prabhupada, in service to all of us, the community, the society, giving them this sambandha gyan, giving them the attraction to devotional service and to Krishna, that those individuals are actually, even at this point in time, roaming the earth. You can see them also in the airports and spend considerable amount of time flying from one place to another. Why? Again, because they are carrying the instructions of their spiritual master to spread the instructions of Sri Krishna and the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And so, uh, Srila Prabhupada says that sometimes doubts arise in the minds of neophytes about whether or not the spiritual master is liberated, and sometimes neophytes are doubtful about the bodily affairs of the spiritual master. The point of liberation, however, is not to see the bodily symptoms of the spiritual master. So, this is a really nice, um, important point here. Uh, Then the other point here about liberation. What does liberation actually mean? Which liberation means that one is situated in one's constitutional position. And this swarupa, right? And Lord Chaitanya talks about what is a swarupa. The swarupa of an individual, of a jiva, is to be an eternal servitor of Krishna, or the Supreme Lord Krishna. And then in that sense, Prabhupada talks about, if someone is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, he is to be understood as liberated. One must understand whether or not he is liberated by his activities in devotional service, not by other symptoms. This so the pathway to liberation is actually been very simplified. It's been simplified for us quite substantially. Is simply to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And now that we have actually Nityananda Trayodasi that is coming up end of this month, January 30th, 2026. Um, I also wanted to share a little bit about uh, the spiritual master, who is essentially the representation of the mercy and the um, energy of the Supreme Lord, or of Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda, we need the blessings of Lord Nityananda to access the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we need the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to access the mercy of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, or be situated in the loving devotional service, and build that loving devotional relationship with Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar. And how does one understand that one has received the mercy of Lord Nityananda? Or how does one understand that one has received the mercy of the spiritual master? Because again, the spiritual master is a representation of Lord Nityananda or Balaram. Is that one has lost any attraction for material sense gratification. And then on the other side, one's desire to perform devotional service increases. So that is another way for us to understand how we are progressing on this path of liberation, or being situated in our constitutional position. There are a lot more things to talk about, but I will end here because there are 4 more minutes, and wanted to see if there's any discussions or comments that others may want to contribute to this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I don't have any specific comments, Prabhu. I think one of the translation when you are reading, right? Can you just go approve on the translations. I think maybe second verse, I guess. Second verse. This is second verse, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You shall be soon liberated even within your present body. Okay, it's talking about the liberation of the Prabhupada and you explained it. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. I mean, it's very easy to if somebody is little close, right, to a spiritual master with a material, I mean, our own material things. It is very easy to find those. Oh yeah, he's also doing same thing as somebody else, right? It's very easy to misunderstand those things. I mean, while we don't understand that the material needs may be there, but I mean, the way their consciousness is being there in fulfilling those material needs is completely different than a normal person. So just thinking.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very I mean, of course, one has to be very very uh, conscious, very careful, so not to make those kind of mistakes. I was also thinking, I mean, if for a moment, right, uh, I mean, of course, we all have some faith, but if the faith is say 100%, right, for a moment, so but then what is it for a person who is giving this process to us, right? All the devotees, I mean, is how grateful we should be, right, for that kind of person. I was just thinking about that. So,
correct. And again, this is where this trifecta of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra really helps establish that faith for us, right? Even if a liberated soul walks in front of us, how do we recognize one, right?
yeah,
It's the only way we can recognize one is if we've understood the Shastras or if we've read the Shastras. Like we read Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam instructs us, okay, here's the qualities of a liberated person. Or we are in the association of elevated devotees, and through their mercy and their instructions, we understand, okay, this is how things are. And so the importance of reading Shastras, importance of association, also then helps connect one to one's spiritual master. And again, connecting to spiritual master reinforces our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, as well as association of devotees. And so this trifecta of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra is what sustains us and takes us on that path of increasing levels of faith. So thank you for bringing that. Actually, the next verse talks about fear, uh, but we don't have time to discuss it. But again, that's um, here Kapil Dev is talking about you shall be freed from the fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. And so um, automatically as this faith develops and as one understands that the cause of all causes is protecting. I'm under the protection, and I work for the boss of all bosses. Then one is automatically not in that fearful state. So anyway, thank you for bringing up the concept of faith. Any other thoughts, comments? All right. Well, if there isn't any, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa